Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, getting ready for almost the last day of the month. Actually, it is the last day of the month, 31st of August, so happy almost September. Plenty to talk about today, following up from yesterday's short-term, medium-term, and long-term analysis as Bitcoin did hit the upside targets in the medium term. Now, where do things lead up for the new week of new opportunities? Well, we'll be talking about that, of course, and also traditional markets, plus some commodities as well. And let's put the interest on the open interest in the Krown Chain application, which can be found at app.krownchain.net, and it's free, so take advantage of it, please. Or don't. It's not gonna be mad about it. But looking at the open interest right here, there is something of interest right now, to use a bad pun, and that is that we do see that open interest is rising up while price action does break the medium-term time frame range to the upside. We were looking at 11,700 to be broken yesterday, or just basically as soon as CME's opened, to kind of denote that next sort of small short-term change of behavior, which we do have. Open interest is essentially suggesting that move is efficacious, as we do see it essentially rise with price action. Very small increments right here, but still looking at the overall range is the big one. So all of this is essentially minutia as far as the greater range goes, which is still between about 11,000 and 12,000. Again, we'll kind of nail down exactly where those territories are, but I think just easier to say those numbers. Alongside a break of the range on the open interest, which we have typically seen above about 2.5 billion. Just watching this one over the last few months, but still need more data for that to really confirm. Also, we do have more information once again, more suggestions from the market that we are seeing actual rotations going on right now. Bitcoin dominance heading further down while Bitcoin price action does head up. This is something that we have not seen in a very long time. I mean, well, we've been seeing it a little bit this year, but before that, this really has not been something that we've seen since 2017, 2018, or I guess beginning of 2018, because most of that was not that way. But what am I saying here? I'm saying that when Bitcoin's rising up, it seems to be that altcoins are actually rising up on the whole a little bit more as Bitcoin dominance continues to trend down. So we've actually I don't even think that we've actually broken officially that 58% region. So this is even a change of behavior from that perspective as well, which we'll have to look at the actual chart itself. Fear and greed index actually literally steady at 75, which is a little bit strange. I'm curious what the data tab says. Is there anything of interest right here? I want to take a look at the global funding rate. Nope, still relatively low. Fear and greed index is flat as a fucking door, and I think it's time to go in the actual price action charts right here. So starting off with our let's actually go over here. Oh no, we're already there on stamp. Nice. So Bitcoin did get a pretty nice weekly close yesterday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Clearly above, let's go to this chart right here, clearly above or within the liquid zone that Bitcoin's been getting sold off from for the last 3 years since January 2018. So once again, it maintains that level, so to speak. And this is, again, or at least the way that I look at this is that we are seeing a macro change of behavior here. This is the same area, again, that we've been getting rejected from ever since January 2018. Again, almost 3 years long. And being able to maintain above these with closures, especially, even when last week did actually try to go back down below, is going to suggest that the path of least resistance here, or maybe not the path of least resistance, but Bitcoin is very likely to give a legitimate try to the upside here over these next few weeks. Again, assuming that today's monthly does close relatively healthy as well, but I'd be, we'll look at it in a second, but I kind of spilled the beans right now. If Bitcoin closes here or higher, I'm looking for this run to make new highs on it. And as you can see here on the macro, there are a few other areas of interest. If Bitcoin does break the range with any sort of a weekly closure above 12,000, I would be looking for an overall move towards 13,500. Probably not the same day, over time, very likely, yes. Let me just make sure I'm recording. I am recording. The microphone's working. That's good. Might even make this video a little bit shorter today too, if I can. Anyways, while that's all going on, we should actually go back down to the lower term time frames right now, but I did want to start off with that. Obviously, we'll come back to the weekly in just a second. But for now, let's go back down here. Let's go back to our GDAX chart. And yes, indeed. So yesterday we said very likely Bitcoin to head back up to about 11,700-ish region, as long as it maintains above 11,500, which we broke the day prior. Or sorry, was it the day prior? I think it was Saturday, I believe, and it was this level right here. We were looking at this little this little order block right here. Bitcoin did break above it. That initiated the next move to 11.7, and that's kind of where we are right now. So as you can see, Bitcoin is starting to come back down and test around that 11.7 liquid zone right here. and using it as support. Bouncing off it is going to be more or less suggestive that we are going to very likely see another move back up towards the 11.9, maybe even $12,000 region right here. And that is very much in line with the rest of the market. So I do think it's possible on the very short-term timeframes. I really don't have a strong opinion on this, but I do think it's very possible we'll see a quick move down to 11.6 base, perhaps. We already did kind of fill the gap on CMEs, I would say. I mean, this is not necessarily this does not count as a gap right here in no way, shape, or form. Do not trust fucking 5-minute traders on CMEs. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, where do people get this? I don't know. But from my experience in trading traditional markets, this is let's actually take this off right there. This is in no way, shape, or form a gap right here. And if it did come back down, I would be looking for a bounce at 11.6, very possible. But I'd now be using that as a pivot for going upwards and onwards here. So as long as Bitcoin essentially maintains above it, which is actually where the daily 21 and 10 simple are right now, and also the 200 simple on the 4 hour, I'd look at it as an opportunity and also as a short-term pivot point once again. So we can use the same levels going down as we went up. Not necessarily saying that I think that Bitcoin is going down here, but if it were, I'd be using about the same level. So 11.6, if Bitcoin does break below it on a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo, I'd look for probably a short-term move back down towards the 11,300 base, somewhere around here. Very likely another bounce within that region. And if Bitcoin were to break it, same implications as well for the long term, as I would be looking for a move down to the long-term zone at about 10,950 to 11,000. And if Bitcoin does break below there, I would still be looking for, moves below 10,000. But as I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, until that criteria is met by breaking 11,000 on the very least a 12-hour or daily, I'm not bearish, and that's not to say that things can't turn around to be bearish. It's just the way that I trade and the way that I look at markets. I'd rather err on the side of caution in a situation like this, and quite literally the trend will be your best friend if you just let it be. And right now, well, there's not too much bearish about this on the weekly, and more importantly, if we go over here to the monthly, I'd probably extend that a little bit further. It's looking pretty damn good. Now, of course, the monthly close is officially coming tonight, and here's what I can say, a little bit more handily about the monthly close, as we are less than a day away, 20 hours and 12 minutes and 41 seconds to be exact, and that is with any sort of a monthly close above about 11,000. I'm very likely looking for continuation to the upside. We will see momentum monsters continue to the upside right here with monthly Stokes not only rejecting the bearish control zone a few months ago, but now really lifting upwards and onwards into the bullish control zone, which will maintain to the upside as long as Bitcoin closes a monthly dildo above 7150. I'd say that's rather likely today. We've all seen some pretty crazy things, this one especially in March, but I'd say rather likely. We also do see that monthly Jewel is still giving you that holiday long signal, and also monthly RSI is looking like an inverted head and shoulders. Just looks constructive within this region, and would imply a test over the next few months, very likely back up to the bullish control zone, which, well, take that as you will. Also, of course, we are going to be closing the bi-monthly as well, and the bi-monthly is obviously more important because it's a higher time frame. And what do we see here? We actually see something a little more interesting here. We have actually not confirmed an uptrend continuation on CM, or sorry, not CMEs, but on the bi-monthly just yet. That will happen if Bitcoin does close anywhere above, especially 11,000, technically speaking, 10,800-ish region, this high right here. Then we will have low, high, higher, low, and then we'll be closing on a new high. That's continuation, and the trend continues, the same trend that we've been basically seeing since 2011, right? So overall, the higher term timeframes are shaping up to be pretty damn good for overall continuation. But when we're looking at a monthly or bi-monthly, again, I'm not talking about today's price action. I'm not talking about tomorrow's price action. I'm talking about like months out, really. So I'd feel a lot more comfortable saying that if Bitcoin were to close above 11,000 today, especially over the next couple of months, I'd be looking for another move up to 14,000, around 14,000. And momentum oscillators on the bi-monthly suggest the same thing. Bi-monthly Stokes nice and up, nice and erect. Bi-monthly RSI will very likely get back into the bullish control zone with any sort of a closure above 11,800 actually officially. So that's kind of within Bitcoin's scope right now as it grinds up this 11,700-ish region. So let's go back down here. And let me just kind of rub up my thoughts on the short-term time frames, because there's not all that much to say. I think that it could very easily be another quick move down to 11,600. I don't feel strongly about that, but I'd look at it as first an opportunity. If Bitcoin were to break below there on a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo, I'd extend targets very, very likely back down to about 11.3. But assuming that doesn't happen, I'd actually be looking at that as an opportunity, or generally speaking, just where we are right now, very likely to work its way back up to the 11,000 11,700-ish region, which we can show, represented by this blue box right here. Momentum on the 4 hour is remained to the upside as long as we close this next 4 hour dildo, which closes in 9 minutes and 52 seconds. So we'll actually see it together above 11,691 spot 40 cents, which we are quite literally about $4 below, $5 below right now. Looking at all of the momentum oscillators, we do see 4 hour stocks are getting up there, so fair enough. They are getting a little bit tired. That's why I do think that short-term timeframes could very easily play out a pullback here. And we also do have potential hidden bearish divergence forming between this point and this point. This is the 24th of August on that $11,800 high. But here's the thing: is that Well, here's the thing. For one, we don't actually have a local high confirmed here at all whatsoever. It wouldn't even be able to happen on this current dildo that we're working on right now. It'd probably have to happen over a series of 4 hour closures below 11.8. So, do I think that is it possible to play out? Yes. If it puts in a local high, has it put in a local high yet? No, and it's not anywhere near towards that. If you do, if you short into divergence like that, then you're just going to short every continuation drive in the history of ever. So fair enough. And more importantly, the 4 hour jewel did kind of give you a hot or long signal right here. I think it was more obvious on the signal given on the 27th of August, and then also CMEs had a lot more of an obvious one right here, giving you a signal on the 28th and a very aggressive signal on the 27th, and still getting continuation to the upside. So overall good. Does still make me think that Bitcoin likely just moves its way through here. If it takes out the $11,800 high, then obviously it won't even have hidden bearish divergence present or possible there anyways. And if we go back down below all the very low term time frames, I'm curious if there's anything like obvious here. Yeah, 3 hours using the 200 simple to kind of rally or base off of, and as you can see, momentum will turn to the downside if we actually do close below it. So that is 11,680. What about the bi-hourly? What's that one showing? Basically same area, 11,690, 200 simple right in there as well. And on the other side, the golden cross is looming. So if it can maintain above this level, it will naturally get the golden cross and very likely move up to 11,900, probably 12,000. Probably, if I'm just being honest, probably set up for an actual breakout or a legitimate breakout attempt to the upside above 12,000. But for right now, could be using this as a pivot for the short-term timeframes, and maybe we do play out a short-term pullback beforehand. Looking at the hourly, about the same thing as well, although it does seem that Stokes are in a price action right now, and as long as we're closing hourly dildos above 11,674 spot 80 cents, it will remain to the upside, although, still, actually got a little bit of room right there. More importantly, and that's not really the right way to be using Stokes anyways, more importantly, we do have a golden cross, so it's going to the goddamn moon. No, just kidding. Do we have any sort of regular divergence here? No, we don't. Just all sorts of stair-stepping type action. So all good. As my voice cracks, I sound like a prepubescent teenager. My raspy lesbian voice making it rearing its ugly head once again. Sorry, ladies. Anyways, it's not any ladies who watch this. Actually, there are. I've actually checked out the stats. There's like 10 or so people who identify themselves as female, and I think that's the politically correct way to say it, who watch this channel, and you girls are cool as fuck. That's all I have to say about that. Some cool ass girls. Okay, 10 hour right here is pretty interesting as well. Historical volatility percentile is very low here and has been contracting in a pretty obvious manner ever since we got into this range since July. Is starting to match up with an apex coming in a little bit later than what I first kind of looked at on here. I'm curious if this matches up with the 4 hour. I'm gonna guess not. Yeah, the 4 hour is a little bit different, isn't it? It's a little bit more aggressive, which would actually be suggesting a more short-term break actually this week. It does become about 75% full, basically around middle of this week. So it would be statistically very likely to break. If we're looking at the 10 hour and 12 hour, it would suggest a little bit more time on that. So perhaps that's speaking more towards the macro environment of this, as we do start to see signatures forming there. But still, a little bit too early to really be putting a lot on that. For right now, we do see on the medium term timeframes like the 10, 12, and daily, momentum is starting to turn back up once again. So we have a couple of very interesting things going on right here on the 10-hour and 12-hour. Hidden bearish divergence, yes, is potentially forming if Bitcoin puts in a local high right here. Is this a local high? Fuck no. And more importantly, we do see that the 21 is starting to cross above the 55 exponential moving average, which I actually really like that. If you're in the TA program, definitely keep an eye out on that one. Watch the EMA video if you're unsure of what I'm talking about, and keep an eye on that, as a 10 simple also kind of leads that one in. Now this is also, of course, coming alongside 10-hour momentum remains to the upside, which will, of course, be meeting this trend line right here that we had mapped out. Whoops, I guess I already have it in, or no, I don't, but we can just redraw it, something like this. Which can be a good signal either way, because if the Stokes do actually break above the critical zone, then this will be a confirmed broken trend line. We will get a nice move up into the deeper end of the critical zone there, extremely likely, and that will happen as long as Bitcoin's closing 10-hour dildos above 11,500. Momentum will remain to the upside, and this gets further verified the higher time frame that we go. Actually, going over here to a 12-hour, what do we see? We see 12-hour momentum heading nice and steadily up. Now we do have that same sort of trend line coming in right here as well. This one's protecting a little bit more against the bullish control zone. So what would that suggest? It would suggest that if 12-hour Stokes do get in the bullish control zone, then, well, we're going to see a change of behavior and very likely test the top side of the long-term range at about, we'll just call it 12,000. 12-hour RSI looks okay. Not anything too obvious here. If anything, we do have, somewhat of a falling channel going on this. Now, I don't really, actually, formations in RSI I do care about, especially channels seem to work out a lot better on them, whereas triangles seem to work out best on physical price action. No, not physical price action, but just price action in general. And looking at this right here, we do have a falling channel, which typically does break out to the upside. Now, of course, this has been baking ever since late July, so it can take a lot more time to kind of formulate itself, and there's going to be ebbs and flows within it. But I would keep an overall eye on this to kind of govern the long-term potential breakout. If the long-term, if we see this start to head back up towards the bullish control zone and break above the top side of this, I'd very likely be looking at this as a as a potential signal that we actually are going to break out the top side beforehand, because this is a derivative on price action now, isn't it? Looking at 12-hour historical volatility percentile, do we have anything obvious right here? I'm not so sure. Actually, I've been playing around with this a little bit more. I think I was wrong about the prior read. I think I'm wrong about both reads. Well, the prior read was this, could this work out? Yes, it could. That would be more in line with the 4-hour. I think the 4-hour just gets it better, and this one's more of a distraction there. Would kind of suggest the same things, but it's just more obvious on a 4-hour, so I'd actually stick with that. More importantly, let's go over here to the daily. The daily is looking nice and steady. Bitcoin maintaining above the 10 simple and the 21 exponential moving average, not allowing them to cross on the same day, which is very, 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 very important for this time frame's trend. And then on top of that, we are also crossing up daily momentum oscillators at the same time. So this is significant here. The reason why this is significant is because one, we are actually rejecting the bearish control zone by turning back up in that region. 2, we are also seeing a break of the 21 at the same time back up, and this is that is essentially breaking a medium-term level that we had notified at 11.5 from a couple days ago, that we moved up to 11.6 yesterday, while also turning up momentum at the same time and maintaining above some of the more important major moving averages for myself for the short-term trend on that time frame, so to speak, and also kind of governing against or guarding against a bearish cross that could have happened yesterday if we saw any sort of a closure, especially below 11.5, that same pivot. So right now, this turning up at the same time, while I do think it would be very possible to get another move back down to like 11,300, 11,350, I don't think that that's out of the question, but I'd be looking at that as an opportunity once again on the daily. And again, that's, the daily overall, I'd be looking for it to work its way upwards and onwards towards, well, 11,900 to 12,000 bucks. I wouldn't mind another test back down to 11.3, but I'd be looking at that as an opportunity if it were to happen, governed by that same pivot, which we can now move up to $100 higher to 11.6 instead of 11.5 anymore. So looking fine right here. Volume signature is starting to really tail off as well, and this would also give us a somewhat interesting resolution date, as it would suggest that we are about 75% full in this formation right now. This is getting this whole region right here. I wouldn't necessarily identify a formation on this one, as far as like the general patterns go, but overall it's very obvious consolidation within a nice range. And once we have the ranges, which essentially is that $11,000 region to the downside for the long term, or $12,000 region to the upside for the long term as well, this volume signature right here would suggest that we very likely do actually break that range this week. So, call me crazy, but I do think that Bitcoin moves outside of the long term range very likely this week. So statistically speaking, it's very likely. And momentum oscillators would suggest plus trend plus moving average, which would suggest to the upside here. So that'd be above 12,000. Anyways, looking at CMEs, I think it's also important to reiterate this fact as well as we kind of move up in the short term. The CME chart was kind of the harbinger of peace and prosperity. If you were around, I think it was on Friday or Thursday or Friday, we probably talked about both days that we mentioned this. We're playing out some hidden bullish divergence here between this point and this point. And, again, that was the obvious thing. But of course, CMEs don't trade over the weekend. So there's not really anything it's kind of hard to look for a move on an asset that is not trading during that time. And once they open up yesterday night at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, well, now we actually get the move, and you can see it's getting, it is getting respected here so far. And I do think that it's got a little bit more on it. In fact, CMEs are pretty damn close to 12,000 itself, all the way at 11,850 as it is right now. Here's what the daily looks like on this one as well. Maintaining above the 21. And again, the CME chart just got this one a lot better. Here's the thing. Bitcoin spot did break below the daily 21 several times. Usually that's going to be a big issue, but in this chart right here, maintained through it on all of the opens and closures, so no problem there. And we're going to see momentum oscillators on the daily turn back up as well with any sort of a closure above 11,650, and that's going to be coming in from this region right here, which typically is going to be pretty damn powerful alongside a bullish reset on daily RSI, just coming straight back down to the neutral zone after it's hanging out in the bullish control zone. I mean, this looks good actually, if anything. CME chart at the end of the day is making things a little bit more easier. If you're cool with that, if you just let it be. Looking at the weekly for CMEs as well, we actually did close above where we needed to keep momentum up. So momentum on the weekly does remain to the upside on CMEs. More importantly, we do see that the weekly's RSI is going to maintain in the bullish control zone, and we can now look at the weekly pivot as 11,700, maintaining that area. And I'd be looking for this to actually work its way upwards and onwards. I mean, this is a very strong RSI read here. Could it test back down to the exponential? Possible, but I actually think that this is more this sort of a signature here is more indicative to test further into the bullish control zone than back out. We just tested the edge of the bullish control zone yesterday, or on the last closure last week, and so far so good, putting in a hammer dildo alongside the way. Now we will have to. This is suggesting, however, this is really important right here. This is suggesting that it needs to close the weekly above this area right here, 12,227 and 60 cents, in order to maintain weekly momentum to the upside. So it's quite literally saying that if we don't have continuation in this next week, maybe give it another week after that as well, then this run probably will find some major highs. But for right now, looking good. And by the way, I should also mention that that Bali and Pigs, I should say, got all their indicators up now, which you can buy if you so desire. I have a link in the description below, and and there's also a discount code as well, Krown. It's just Krown. It's just Krown. And then also, what else should I let you know about it? Oh yes, they actually do very generously give you 7 days free trial to check them out. So that goes for this indicator, this reverse token indicator, also Bali and Pigs moms. You get both the regular moms and the error correcting moms, I believe, and then also of course the probability panel and the probability cone, which I know a lot of people are very interested in. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's something that I support because I actually use it myself, and you basically never hear me promote any products on this channel except for my own and shit that I actually use, and that's something that I actually use. So I'm more than happy to sing its praises, and especially for the options traders out there, I've found it very, 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 very useful for that. For spot traders, is it still useful? Yeah, I suppose. For myself, I don't use it too much for my spot trading, don't really care. But for options, absolutely yes, it's very, 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 very powerful. Anyways, okay, on the weekly on spot, how do we see momentum oscillators here? Kind of the same thing as on CMEs. Weekly stokes getting a little bit tired, but they are suggesting that we have to see continuation actually this week above last week's high in order to maintain weekly stokes nice and erect, and that would be closing this next weekly above 11,700-ish region, which I believe we closed. Yeah, we closed yesterday yesterday, 11,719. So technically we already closed above, or did we close above? Whoops, wrong chart. Did we close above the top side range? No, obviously not. Could I take that down a little bit? Nah, it's technically 850. It looks like, actually. Oh well, fair enough. But more importantly, what I did want to mention, or did I mention that? No, I think I already mentioned that. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's get into a little bit more of the TA nerd session right here, because we're already 24 minutes in. So here's also what I want to remind you as well, perhaps, is that this. What I want to remind you is that this. Wow. Good fucking English, Krown, you moron, you fucking mongoloid. Sorry, I'm very disappointed. I'm actually trying to learn how to speak better too. Anyways, it's not working. Anyway, so we've been watching this for a while, right? We've been speaking about this signature here on a weekly RSI. Anytime that it gets into the bullish control zone, those are typically the long-term runs for Bitcoin. Going back to April 2019, that was this run right here from this price point all the way up to that next high, 169%, and then several of these moves up in the 2015 to 2018 run right here, of which we'll kind of mark off a few. We got this one right here, again, getting the bullish control zone right there. Once again, right here, getting this run. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's just going to take too long. I've done this a million times already. But then again, right here on this run, you see that one right there. That's it. 79%. Then again, right here on this run for another short one of 59 or 60%. Then again, actually soon after on this run, a little bit higher, 145%. You get the idea. And there's several more examples going all the way back on over here, all the way back on over here, and guess what? Bitcoin got into the weekly bullish control zone for the first time since 2019, or I should say middle of 2019, so more than a year ago. Well, a couple weeks ago, really. And we just came back down and tested it on this week. So overall, as long as Bitcoin maintains above that level, I actually do look for this to, very likely grind its way upwards and onwards. This is further shown, or further enhanced, you could say, maybe, by the weekly Challenger bands over here as well, which with any time that we've actually closed and open and closed, especially a weekly delta above the topside Challenger band plus the brown 27 moving average having a positive slope at the same time, that has been your long-term up markets coming from the same area, telling you a little bit later than RSI, but still the same sort of thing. But big up right there, 166%. Several times, all the same runs that we looked at over here. Again, telling you a little bit later, so not as reactive as the RSI, but still pretty damn good to confirm it. And then of course 2013, 2014, and 2012 all the way over there. And guess what we've been doing more recently? We've actually closed above it. It does have a positive slope. Yes, we are trading sideways here below it, kind of like we did over here as well for a week or two. But overall, I would say that this is the same sort of signature that we have seen in the past that does typically produce those moves. And again, we can actually match this up with one more thing, or a couple more things actually, if we really want to. I'm not going to go into super detail with this, but anytime that the weekly Stokes have gone into the critical zone, those have also been basically those same areas, and you can match them up yourself if you really want to. That also means that if Bitcoin does come back down below here, then maybe a little bit of problems, but for right now, all good. And then if we go over here and look at this chart, we can also see that Bitcoin has a very lovely history of playing out these formations as well. You saw this back in January 2019, or I guess beginning of 2020. No, sorry, beginning of 2019. Yeah, for those first 3 months, consolidating in this ascending triangle right here. Boom, big move up, grinds out a very long-term resistance. I remember a lot of people were looking to short 6,000 in this region. Bitcoin grinds that area out for 4 weeks and then massive move to the upside. Same thing over here, ascending triangle at resistance, boom, massive move up, grinds out this area sideways right there. And this is all coming along the side of, a 3-month consolidation period, which is further verified by the historical volatility percentile reading, which we see, very aggressive, very aggressive contraction phase right here, getting all the way down to 0 reads a few times on the daily, which is doesn't happen all that often. In fact, very few times in Bitcoin history has it happened. This is the same read that we saw in 2019 going down here, came down to single digits, not even 0 reads, but like a 7, for example. And then this was end of 2018 right here, which it actually did get to 0 reads as well. And that was that 50% move to the downside. So, typically speaking, we are talking about bigger moves here. And realistically, if we were to just play around with numbers, and I'm not, because we are into the TA nerd session right now, I think that it's appropriate to talk about this kind of shit. It's not to say that this is what Bitcoin's doing, but just to, get an idea of what that signal has produced in the past. I'm curious what, adding 40% to price, 40% to our price would do right now, because that was on the lower end. That actually does match up exactly with the $16,000 high that we saw in January. That was, and that's a very significant area, because that was your first lower high on that whole run, denoting that, well, party's over, baby. And if we were to extend that another like 10-20%, that'd get the $20,000 high. How do I know that? Because I've done it a million times. So I'll just leave it like that. Okay, let's, and also, another reason why I just do think that Bitcoin's very likely to move up to the upside here is look at gold. Gold retook the 21 exponential average, looks very similar here. I'd be looking for gold to head back up towards 2,000 and probably beyond, but a short-term move to 2,000 and probably short-term pullback from there. World markets are still bullish, reaching for new all-time highs. NASDAQ new all-time highs, as we said, was very likely to come into this week. It's already there. Once again, enjoy your new all-time highs. E-mini futures, I'm going to guess new all-time highs as well. Oh, what do you know? It's all-time high day. It's all-time high fucking day the whole goddamn last 3-4 months, for NAS, especially. Obviously E-mini futures for SPY is not the same thing, but more recently pretty damn good. Joining the party, and well, I'd be looking for new all-time highs here. Tentatively speaking, I maintain with my next sort of targeted region at 12,150, the 3.618 Fibonacci extension over here. And it was, I think it was the first deviation coming into the end of last week for daily NASDAQ futures. So yeah, I'll still maintain with that. I do think that short-term it will reach up to that level. Again, 12,150, probably short-term pullback. And then, if things do step up from there, I suppose my next major target is going to be 12,445. It's been working thus far. And, I have no real reason to be bearish on this thing, as long as it's especially above 11,700, which is kind of crazy. So it makes trading at this level very difficult to manage risk, because the ranges are so large. Looking at E-mini futures for SPY, did I have any targets for this one? I think 3,700, but I don't feel comfortable with that. To be fair, I am still bullish and I'd still be looking for this one to work its way higher today. I think this is still looking good. But overall, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, this is getting intense. We can look at euro dollar as well, grinding up that 119 area again, still in the blue box territory. I still maintain with what I've said, although this is starting to look like it's not going to work out like a local high. This is starting to look out like it wants to actually break this blue box and work its way up to 1.25 and maybe beyond there. But for right now, I'd still reserve a little bit reservation with it, just because I do typically look at the monthly 200 exponential average to provide some sort of resistance. But if it closes like this, I can't be I can't be bearish on something that closes like this if it does, at least for another month. So that's something. So yeah, it is starting to look like it really is starting to look like euro dollar actually does want to go up here, but I'll still wait for the monthly closure. I think that does supersede all, so I'd hold off on judgment for that for now, and still be using the same sort of pivots. Anyways, going to check out what else, or I guess we can look at anything else from traditional markets because they're not open right now. Let's go look at Mr. Butyrol and maybe some link action as well. Maybe these yams that everyone's talking about too. Butyrol, beautiful weekly closure, and I'd be looking for this one to make new highs on this run. Actually, it looks very good, and this is another reason why I do think that Bitcoin just works its way upwards here. Short term, probably a retest of 435, 438. Probably short term pullback from there as well, but weekly looks like it wants up, man. Weekly looks like it wants to break the range. Next long term range is going to be 475, 480, and I just said it. Oh boy, I just said it. Let's see, where's my chart for this one? It's not that. It's not this one either, huh? All right, well, we might as well just redo this chart then, I suppose, because apparently I don't have it anywhere. All right, well, pretty easy chart if we're looking at this one on the weekly. We've got a nice a nice macro pivot right there in this region right here. Our next major area to the upside is right here, coming in from this meltdown in July 2018 at about 480, 490. I'd make a zone out of this though, more aggressively between about 469 and 490, we'll call it. And if I did have to call it, I do think that it works its way up there over the next couple of weeks. This looks good for now. Looks good for now. Weekly Stochs still up there. They're getting a little bit crazy, but fine. Weekly RSI looks constructive as well on the long term. And is there anything? What about the short term? Short term, I'd probably hold off on judgment. If it did want to come back down and test short term, I'd be looking for a move back down to like 410 region and probably bounce there. And if 410 were to break, I'd be looking for a move all the way back down here, actually back down towards 390 and maybe below. But for right now, I don't think that that's what's happening. This one looks more or less fine right now. Anyways, maybe some link action too. Link versus Bitcoins. What do we see here? We did meet. Oh, nice. We actually did meet our what is this? 152,000 Satoshi target. It looks like it probably wants to pick up and test that area again here. Yeah, it did set in or is trying to set in a higher low right here on a 4 hour. So I'd be using this area as a pivot at 141,000 Satoshis, and very likely does give another grind up towards this area right here. And I'd use this as a nice, as a nice short-term pivot point, governing a move back up towards the prior high of about 164,000 Satoshis and maybe beyond. Again, looks, call me crazy on Link. I do think that this one's not done just yet. It's getting close, perhaps. It's perhaps getting close here, but still up as a direction for now. Weekly looks good. Monthly is going to be closing very strongly as well. Any sort of a monthly closure above, especially like, oh my God, 120,000 Satoshis is going to look very good for continuation into October or September. But for right now, looking good mostly across the board. What about versus the dollar? Hello, sir. Can you show me your dollar pairing? And then what are these fucking yams that everyone's yamming about? It's getting ridiculous. Looking good here too. Daily momentum also is turning up as it breaks above the medium term time frame range at 16 and a quarter. It extend targets up to probably $19. It actually already hit $19 yesterday, or no, it hit almost $18 yesterday. Very close. So overall looks fine to me. Looks fine to me right here. Daily also regaining the exponential as well. Looks good, man. This is also a bullish reset too, coming just straight down to the neutral zone. I like that read. Especially as long as it maintains above $16 even. I'd be overall bullish on this one, looking for a retest of the prior highs and probably beyond into the next month. Okay, so what is this EM shit? YFI. Is this how it works? Okay, so this is a thing, apparently. This is a thing. All right, so versus Bitcoin, apparently. Okay, everyone's asking me to analyze this piece of fucking garbage. You can't. I can't analyze a chart that's. You don't want my analysis on a chart that's 2 months old or a month old. Jesus Christ. I don't believe that. I sincerely do not believe that technical analysis works on something like this. I mean, look at this. On a daily, we barely even populated 21 exponential moving average. It's just here. I'll tell you what you already know. It's an uptrend. It's a fucking uptrend. It's very likely to go up a little bit more from here. After that, we don't really have much history to go off of. That's what makes trading something like this very difficult, and why I don't talk about something like this. I also get someone asking about fucking OMG token every goddamn day too, which is great. It's free to ask, but holy shit, man. Hey, fuckface. Let's find some with actual history. Where's Trex? Well, it's a downtrend. It's a motherfucking downtrend. Is it having a nice move over here? Yes, indeed it is. Is it probably going to have a short-term move to the downside? Probably, yeah. 38 or 39,000 Satoshis. Did it just put in... Yeah, I think it just put in a pretty big high right here. Probably does trade down. Hey, man, you live in a world where there are a million different assets. You live in a world where there's even a million different assets in the fucking cryptocurrency world, like just alone. You don't need to trade something like this. Yes, it's having a great run right here. Yeah, absolutely. But Jesus Christ, got to work its way out of all of the bullshit that it did back on over here in late 2017 and 2018. Getting my years mixed up now. So overall, I'd actually be looking for this one to come down a little bit, and then it's probably going to try up again. Everything's going up in this market right now. Seems like maybe a quick one for Litecoin. Ooh, Litecoin did hit the $61 target. I see it's actually above there right now. I'd be looking for a short-term pullback from this region, actually kind of back down to where we are right now, maybe slightly lower towards $61, and then probably another try higher after that towards 67, or where is this high right here? Yeah, about $6-7. Daily Stokes turning back up at the same time too. See the same chart everywhere you look. It's like that song. Anyways, back onto this baby over here. Let's see, how long has this video been? 38 minutes. Jesus Christ. Okay, so back onto Bitcoin. Let's wrap up these ranges once again and look at probabilities. You know, I'll actually use 11,900 to the upside as a top side range. And I didn't even talk about what happens if Bitcoin breaks that. I'd be looking for a quick move to 12.3 and probably be on to new all-time or to new highs on this run, somewhere around like 13,000. Next area would be next area of caution around there, and then 13,500 after that, and then 14,000 actually as well. And then I'd be using 11,500, or sorry, 11.6 as a pivot to the downside, governing the 11.3 region right here. But that's still only medium-term time frame bullshit. So let's see what the probabilities say today. The magical probabilities. What do you say? What do you say? Let's use again 11.9. This is going to be on a 12-hour daily closure, and we'll do 11.6 to the downside. Nope, that's a number. That's a letter, not a number. And there we go. Okay, what do we have? Okay, pretty high probabilities on both sides. The downside would be favored from that perspective, but of course, the downside is getting favored on that perspective because it's a lot closer to price action right now, and more importantly, it has a less significant, it has less relevance for the long term. Obviously, 11,900 closure on a 12-hour or daily very likely does beget continuation around 12,300ish region and probably beyond over time. Although I want to see it in real time too. By the same token, below 11,600, I'd be looking for a short-term move to 11.3, maybe 11.350, and then use that as a medium-term time frame move for again, the same area to the downside, 11,000. So that area is still far and away, and this is coming along the side of Bally and Pig's moms turning up at the same time, both on the regular and the error correcting MA. So I quite like that. So technically speaking, probabilities would be on the downside resolution for the short term, but on the long term resolution to the upside, because 11,000 is going to naturally have a very low probability. I'd guess we can look at it. It'd be good to verify, I guess. But yeah, there you go. Just under 35% versus 7.25%, and those ones have equal meaning to me. Again, below 11,000, looking for big moves down here. Above basically 12,000, looking for big moves back up here and probably beyond. So for right now, what do I think that Bitcoin's going to do? I think that's very likely to hold this range right here, maybe try back down to 11.6, but overall I'd be looking at that as an opportunity, and very likely does work its way back up towards 11.9, and then from there I'd want to see it in real time. Does it actually break that area or not? I'd be looking for a short-term pullback from that area regardless on the first pass. Anyways, I think it's time for me to wish you the best and the happiest. Feel like this video is maybe a little bit all over the place. Apologies for that, but hey, I would like to sincerely wish you well. Take care, and until next time.